The black fellas drink at the Crossing Inn, where the mighty Fitzroy runs, and a river of grog fills the sad places in, for so many lost daughters and sons. If you spit, bite, or humbug, or fight with your fists, or fall down, unable to think, you'll be growled by the barmaid who'll say, "You're too pissed!" But she'll still likely fix your next drink. You see, the inn is a soul sink where money is made by people who don't feel the pain of skinny, sick children with parents waylaid, whose welfare is pissed down the drain. Yeah, the blackfellas drink at the Crossing Inn, where their forefathers walked proud and tall. Will the river of grog wash their welfare away? Will these children have no hope at all? Allow me to share with you a story. It's a story of anger and sorrow, but above all, it's a story of hope. It's the story of Hudson Oscar and his communities. Communities that were being devastated by the scourge of alcohol. But they're beating alcohol through the courage of their women and some clever ideas. Hudson is of the proud Bunuba people of the remote Fitzroy Valley in far northwestern Australia. Around 4,500 people live in the valley in 45 communities. The Fitzroy River is the lifeblood of these communities, where they practice culture and where they maintain the ancient languages of the Bunuba, the Gooniyandi, the Walmajari Wonkajonka, and the Nyigina peoples. Hudson is of a people who are older than the dream time, yet still young enough to dream. Aboriginal Australians represent the world's oldest continuous culture, some 60,000 years, over 2,000 generations. Yet there are people who are mostly young, 50% of the population under 15 years of age, a population doubling rate of 20 years. That sounds promising, right? The world's oldest continuously sung, told, danced and painted culture being passed down through the generations through rapid population growth? Worryingly, no. In 2006, in the Fitzroy Valley, community members attended 50 funerals in as many weeks, 13 of these being related to suicide. A coronial inquiry found that alcohol was a contributor in all of the 22 deaths that were examined. The town was not safe. Households were filled with domestic violence and trauma. Children roamed the streets. Senior Aboriginal women could take no more, and they stood up and demanded a halt to the chronic oversupply of alcohol. At the time in Fitzroy Crossing town, population 1,500, sales of pure alcohol from one liquor outlet alone, the Crossing Inn, were 37,500 litres per year, the equivalent of 750,000 cans of full-strength beer. Senior women had had enough, and at great personal and emotional expense, they fought for alcohol restrictions such that full-strength grog could not be sold as a takeaway. And in the face of fierce opposition from vested interests in local business and indeed in Aboriginal leadership, the women prevailed. Alcohol restrictions were enforced. alcohol sales plummeted by 75%. These women had dammed that damned river of booze. But Hudson had been born before the alcohol restrictions. In 2008, I met Hudson and his mother in my paediatric clinic in Fitzroy Crossing. At 16 months of age, he could barely crawl. He could not reach to grasp objects. He had no language and limited social development. He had restricted brain growth. He could not put on weight despite nutritional supplementation. He had a unique set of facial features of the fetal alcohol syndrome. I had conducted genetic testing for other causes of the facial features and developmental delay that he exhibited. But the cause of his worries lay in the story of his mother, whose artwork today suggests a fusion of an ancient culture and a bright future. But her story is one of intergenerational trauma, of children forcibly removed from their homes because of the colour of their skin. Her reality, her circumstance, is one of poverty, of overcrowded housing, of domestic violence, and of a community drowning in a river of grog that flows to feed a cycle of dependency and dysfunction that threatens the very fabric of an ancient culture. Alcohol is a teratogen. Women like Hudson's mother, unable to bear their worry and stress, often fill their sad places in by drinking heavily, including while pregnant. Alcohol causes a specific set of facial features that are consistent across ethnic groups. Alcohol targets specific brain regions that are critical for cognitive functions, such as the development of language, the retention of memory, self-regulation, and impulse control. Women in the community knew that so many children among them were different. They looked unlike any kids they'd seen across the generations. They had terrible behavioural and learning difficulties, did poorly at school, and often ended up in trouble with the law. Gandhi said that if we can apply the law of love with scientific precision, we can achieve great wonders in our lifetime. And that's exactly what's being carried out in the Fitzroy Valley. In 2009, we brought together a local leadership team and governance structure, and we developed a strategy to overcome fetal alcohol syndrome and related syndromes, collectively termed fetal alcohol spectrum disorders, or FASD. But we knew that in the Fitzroy Valley, we didn't have the resources and expertise to truly tackle this problem. So we pulled together a circle of friends, world-class research institutes, government ministers, philanthropists, Cherokee elders, you name it. We brought them on board to form part of our strategy steering group. I even wrote a letter to the Queen, and her reply, while sincere, was not practically helpful. She admitted that there were troubles with some remote Aboriginal communities. She felt that it was outside of her jurisdiction, and she referred us on to the Governor-General. I get that. That's fine. Einstein said that if he had 1 hour to spend on a problem, he would spend 55 minutes defining the problem and then 5 minutes working on the solution. In a similar vein, in the Fitzroy Valley, we knew that we needed to know exactly how many children were affected by FASD so that we could mount an appropriate response. So with world-class research partners, we undertook the Lilil One project. Lilil One meaning all of the little ones. It's Australia's first population-based study of FASD prevalence. A multidisciplinary child health team lived in the Fitzroy Valley. Between 2010 and 2012, we interviewed over 130 mothers who'd been pregnant before the alcohol restrictions, and we found that so many had drunk alcohol during pregnancy. We conducted comprehensive multidisciplinary assessments in over 100 of their children, and we confirmed the concerns of the community that FASD was a significant cause of disability and of learning problems amongst their children. Now, while the community's data cannot yet be shared, we will soon report among the highest rates of FASD ever documented worldwide, over 20 times the rates found in the general population. Now, one of the problems with research, and possibly a flaw in Einstein's theory, is that we often invest much in defining the problem, but then don't stay the long course to be part of the solution. Not on our watch. The children with FASD, like Hudson, are the statistics that we have unveiled. Their disability is the data that we analyse. Their story is the human suffering around which some of the best minds in our country now gather. In the Fitzroy Valley, we have the bold goal of making FASD history. We will drive down rates of drinking in pregnancy from 50% to less than 10% over a 5-year period. We do this in collaboration with incredible research and community partners. And we attack this wicked problem through a multi-pronged approach that includes but goes beyond prevention. Prevention is key. Alcohol restrictions reduced supply. What we're doing now is working with community members to understand the factors that cause some women to drink in pregnancy and enable others to abstain. Once we know these factors, we can build resilience in young women. We're working with family groups to understand the key influences of behaviour, and we're working with these people to be champions of change within the family unit. We're looking at world's best practice in health promotion activity, and we will apply that with rigour and intensity in the Fitzroy Valley. And once we've documented the effectiveness of this approach, it will be translated to other communities. But some children, like Hudson, have already been affected. We know that diagnosing FASD is incredibly important so that we understand the unique learning needs of the individual children. So working with local health services, we're building capacity to diagnose and to manage these children. These children require therapeutic input from a range of therapists: occupational, physical, and speech therapists, social work, family workers, and paediatricians. We're coming together to design evidence-based interventions that can help affected children to reach their potential in the home and the school environment. And for the first time in remote Australia, we're measuring whether these interventions actually work. If they do, we will do more. If they don't, we will do differently. We realise that children like Hudson need us to come around them as a team, respecting and leaning on the strengths of a family, breaking down barriers between health and education. So child health goals are to enable children to learn better and to reach their potential. And within the health services, we need to coordinate ourselves better. We need to run more efficiently, particularly in remote communities. And we need to spend more of our time on therapy rather than endless rounds of assessment. To facilitate this, I established Patches Paediatrics to be an engine room for driving innovation and efficiency within child health services in remote communities. And under the guidance of champions like Maureen Carter, a cultural health innovator, in partnership with corporate sponsors and the Patches team, we're placing families in the very centre of everything we do in child health in the Fitzroy Valley. One of the barriers to services working effectively in remote communities that we have multiple different visiting services. We visit either a community clinic or a school, but we don't visit at the same time. And the families find it incredibly difficult to access and understand these services. So we're fixing that problem. We've established a coordinated visiting schedule and a world's best practice multidisciplinary clinical process that families can actually understand. It's about getting all of us on the same page, literally. We now display our visiting schedules in the Fitzroy Valley, allied health, nursing, paediatric and other, through the Patches Open Access website, so that schools and community members know who is coming and when. And in remote communities, as clinicians, we often have little time to actually implement therapies that help these children. Our preferred model is to build capacity in schools and in families to do so. And to that end, we've established an Aboriginal therapist and a clinic coordinator living in the Fitzroy Valley communities. And here they are, working at Bayaloo Remote Community School with school principals. Similarly, here's a family accessing health and education services together at Byagawi Family and Children's Centre in Fitzroy Crossing. And if a family can't make it to us, then we reach out and engage them. We're about understanding the reality of a family's situation in remote Australia and tailoring our services to meet that reality. And imagine if these services were so accessible and so relevant to families that they always turned up in droves and even outnumbered the clinical staff. This is Hudson, aged 7, with family members June, Raylene, Aisha and Marilyn. We're sustaining this work by building capacity within local organisations. Manamudakura Women's Resource Centre, Nindalingari Cultural Health Service. But we provide an important sense of agency to facilitate implementation. And we want to share this story with other communities because we believe that if we can achieve a coordinated approach to a community's greatest threat in the Fitzroy Valley, then we can help their children and their children's children to be the best that they can be. And we know that if other communities adopt a similar strategy to a wicked problem such as FASD, if we follow the lead of the community elders, if we develop sophisticated yet culturally relevant strategies, and if we actually get them done, then the world's oldest culture has a greater chance of being passed on through the generations. And above all, we need to remember who we're working for. And we need to work in a spirit of hope. There's hope in the valley. It flows slow and deep. A river of life floods the plains. And it softens the tears that the grandmothers weep, like a desert refreshed by the rains. And there's pride in the valley. Those women stood strong to stop that damned river of booze, while businessmen and countrymen swore they were wrong. But the women had too much to lose. See, the children were damaged before they were born. The alcohol poisoned the brain. And the grandparents grew them up, tired and forlorn, while the parents went drinking again. But now the river of grog is a trickle out there, and these young people hunt through the skies for the visions of old men with wild, untamed hair, and that wise, patient gleam in their eyes. Yeah, there's hope in the valley. It flows deep and slow, like culture, where life finds its themes. The river of hope has a long way to go, but it's flowing, and so are their dreams. Thank you.